Okay. Thank you for watching here on YouTube Live. If you are logging in live on YouTube at Blooming Light, at Bloomie's Tribe, if you are a benevolent, decent being, if that's the vibe you are, that's the true essence of your energy, then thank you for watching. You, I honor. Okay. Um, Today's segment, and if you're logging in at another time, chances are you may see this at a later time and date, and you see it when you should see it. But anywho, today's segment is regarding, I'm going to come with a spin as I always do. And typically I'm not going to go in the direction that people think I am. So what is the look? I think I put it in quotation marks with look, the look of mental illness. Okay. And I want to talk about it, especially with all this news coming out about these new orders of, homelessness being made illegal, and, what they're trying to do with mental illness, and, all of these things. And so I really want to talk about it because once I finish this conversation, the real mental illness is going to actually possibly be on the other side of this. So, case in point, you're looking at a picture of someone. It looks like this is possibly a gentleman. Looks like he, depending on his location, that he might be on Skid Row. And he's sitting on the ground. He's got on, hoodie and coat, and looks like he's worn, and, got a sign up that says, "We'll work for food." And then you have this woman that appears to be well kept, and appears to be pretty healthy, and she even appears to be compassionate. She appears to be empathetic. She's leaning down, and she's got this look on her face of, I feel for you. I'm concerned, and I'm going to take out my time, and I'm going to kneel down, and this is not going to fix your problems, but I'm going to kneel down and give you a couple of bucks, get you a cup of coffee and a donut. Okay. Isn't that what it looked like? Now, this is for thought provocation. Okay. Again, since, as of recent, we're finding out that in some places they're trying to make it illegal to be homeless. What they're trying to do with mental illness and those that are afflicted. And I'm gonna put that in quotations, air quote, afflicted. I'm gonna flip this thing in a minute. So for all intensive purposes, this is what this picture looked like, doesn't it? Someone who's trying to help, doesn't it? But what if I told you? See, on this form, it said, you can't see it because it cut it off in order to put it up on the screen. It says humans behind, the humans behind the homelessness. Now, this is the way I'm taking it. It may not be how they meant it, but what if that's all a program, all is set up, and that person that looks like they're so giving and caring is why this person is homeless in the first place? Play with that. Because they get to look like something that they're not. They get to look like philanthropists. They get to look like charitable, caring individuals, while possibly benefiting off of this man being homeless, benefiting off of him being put in that position by the powers that be, benefiting off of stealing of his energy, fucking with his head, doing things to create an energy imbalance for him so that he looks like he is somebody who cannot seem to function properly in society. and that he needs to be pitied and cared for by those that are actually benefiting off of him to begin with. Because let's say there's an insurance policy out on him. Let's say people want his organs, the harvesting, human trafficking ring. Because it's a thing, whether people are aware of it or not. See, ignorance is dangerous. What if this person don't know what their real identity is, but there's powers that be that do? And there's a hit out on his head. And as a result, there's been energies behind his life fucking with them to create that, so that power of attorney and control could be gotten over him, or hopefully just end up, being unalived or unaliving themselves. Or if laws eventually pass so that him being forced in that position, now they can get him institutionalized by way of fuckery. Picture don't look quite the same anymore, huh? As we look at it. The look of mental illness. What is that? What is the look? What if he was more sound than her in this picture? What if she's the one with mental illness, but she's sociopathic and connected to just the just right people in order to have the resources to not look as crazy as she is? Oh, that's mind-blowing. Because what I'm proving is a human tendency to look on the surface. Look at, for all intents and purposes, let's play with this. Let's have a good time with this. Currently, the collective that I assist, including myself, are under illegal surveillance, but we also have those that are not corrupt watching for their investigative purposes. And some of them will look just like that man right there. Yep. Some of them will look just like that. They're not going to all be people that are just pretend shoppers and just, seeming to just show up every place that the targeted collective seems to frequent. Some of them, and I'm talking about the ones that are not corrupt, the ones that are investigating the illegal surveillancing. They're going to look like old boy right there. They're not going to look like some highfalutin, sedity something. They going to look like something that nobody don't want to talk to and don't want to pay no attention to. That's a training method. That's a tool that they know about that. There's a movie that I watched called The Internship with Vince Vaughn and old boy with the funny nose. Okay, I like him though. I like him as an actor, but it's just he has this signature. I'm not trying to be funny and disrespectful. It's a signature about his his features, and most of you may have seen it. And the funny thing is about towards the end of it, the person that actually owned the company was always around them. Always. Nobody knew that. except for some of the leadership. But the deal was not to disclose who they were, because that's their way of observation. They wanted to be a part of the program. They wanted to be amongst the people. They wanted to, see how things are going, but they didn't want all of the praise and acclaim and the brown nosing. And because if, that's what's going to kick in the moment you reveal who you are. They wanted to see people in their authentic They wanted to see people in their authentic frequency, should they thought that they were nobody. And they did. He was there looking like an emo student with earphones on, appearing to be shy, appearing to not be involved and talk to anybody. Nobody tried to befriend him, nothing. He just sat there. Nobody did nothing. Nobody said hi. Nobody cared. But he was the most powerful man in that room. He was the one who held the power to shut all of it down. He was the one that could have all of their jobs and determined who would be able to intern and who wouldn't be if he wanted to. So, but on the surface, before you know the backdrop, this man looked like an emo student. Possible mental illness or shyness, but he was he was more powerful than everybody there. And then we look at people who are all polished, and we have an assumption about that too, don't we? You see how the human nature and our programming and the conditioning and our culture. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being polished. I'm not saying that everyone polished is mentally ill and everyone that's looking like this man is. I'm not saying that. I'm simply bringing out our assumption and maybe the agenda behind some of this stuff. What if that man is targeted because of his blood type? What if he's targeted, like I said, because of his organs? What if he's targeted because, I'm just going to say this for those of us that understand this stuff, because he's a starseed. And the higher powers know about that. What if schizophrenia is somebody that have been a part of a torture program, and it's actually dimensions that they can access, but they've been tortured, a part of a program, and it looks like schizophrenia for those of us that are just surface and overly dependent on the crap shit they done told us. What if I told you that the real mental illness is the powers that be behind creating the fuckery? People that they're afraid of, people that they can't control, and people that they want to exploit and monopolize and benefit off of their energy, without altogether doing away with themselves. To put them in a torture program so that they'll lose their civil and human rights. Because what if, I told you, you put a person in, if it's being constructed to put the man in that position, hopefully to do what? To put him to the brinks of what? To push him to the brinks of what? to push him to the brinks of being, becoming a robber so that he can get caught up. He ain't got nowhere to go. He ain't got no money. All doors are closing. They're making sure nobody don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Or they're affecting their health and well-being to such an extent that they cannot function in society properly. And then at a sheer desperation to survive, out of 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 sheer desperation to survive. I did that on purpose. Out of sheer desperation to survive, they go and steal a bag of chips or a sandwich out of a convenience store. And lo and behold, this is just the day that the cops is on their job for a damn change. And lo and behold, and lo and behold, this is the day that all of the just right cops and securities and is able to catch the assailant, but they can't catch a real robber if somebody paid them good and plenty of money to do it. But today they caught the desperate man gasping for air, trying to get a meal. But they can't get the serial robber that's been robbing them blind every day. So the look of mental illness. It's going to cause many of us to take a second, triple, double, quadruple take. What if in this depiction, this lady is a narcissist or a sociopath? But what if she's more communal narc? And what if she has a PR team and she knows that people are watching her and she wants them to get that good angle picture of her giving the nigga $5? What if let's even have a little bit more fun with this. Let's say they're related. Ooh, I'm gonna enjoy this part. What if they're related? What if that's her brother? And what if she was always jealous of her brother's charisma? She was always jealous of her brother's creativity. She was always jealous of the way people, maybe spoke of her brother and looked at her brother. She was always jealous of, maybe she felt like he had favor over her in certain scenarios or situations, or she thought that he had it easy, or he didn't have to do the things that she felt that she had to do. And what if in her desperation to compete and to beat him, she goes and gets involved at her gasp of needing to be successful. She goes into a land and starts getting involved with the lunatics in that land that knows things about sicko shit in order to become successful. and they bring to their attention or an offer and mention, oh, you do have a brother, yeah, and there's so and so, and yeah, he's our knowledge is based, he's a starseed, and he's this and that, and he's blah blah blah, and we would like his energy. Now, what if I told you that pissed her off, because yet once again here she is in desperation trying to outdo her brother and stick it to him. It both brings her delight and disgust, because here's even more people wanting him over her, the very ones that's going to assist her to become her brother, to hopefully take on his image, to take on his persona, to take his place. And what if I told you that that was a destiny swap? Her ass should be the one sitting there, because it's true of her energy. It's true of the essence of her own investments in terms of her own development inside, not just outside. What if I told you that it was a destiny swap and she's the one with mental illness, because she's the one that put her brother there for money? To get herself out of jail because she's a fucking crook. To finally look successful and to look like the image of, goodness and piety and charity. What if this whole act is so that when she's telling people about how supportive she's been to her brother, who just has always been kind of loopy and out there, so let's revisit it. The look of mental illness. What are we classifying? Are we even able to critically think anymore at all? Is there anyone at all? And see, we're not talking about IQs here. We're talking about a deeper level of critical thinking. Many of these people have high IQs, but they lack something. They're lacking something because they're too surface. There's an automatic assumption based on what we're looking at that he is the one that's mentally ill and she is the one that's sound, because she is groomed. She doesn't look worn. She doesn't look tethered. She, obviously seems to have some money. And then so there's an automatic mental, psychological assumption automatically assigned to it based on our programming conditioning. What if the mental illness is everything that we're thinking is the American dream? Everything that we're thinking is about social status and social climbing and status quo and social norms and all of these things. What if that's the mental illness? What if there's something darker? What if that's a very, 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 very unfortunate assumption and lapse in our understanding and judgment that is really costly? Because we then turn over power and control to the wrong people. We then give the wrong people positions that they have no business in, because their grandfather was the founder of the city, because their grandmother was the head fireman for 30 years because their dad was in the military for 70 years because they come from so and so family because they you know got a degree and they're very polished and professional and well kept, and they have a credit score of 2000 if that's possible because they have a savings and a 401k and a medical insurance and dental plan because they seem to be in good health. They seem to be in good health. They work out, they exercise, they take care of their bodies. Their homes are neat and tidy and clean and well kept, almost mausoleum, museum like. And we assume that that equals mental health, mental wholeness. But what if the person is a psychotic, a psychopath, or a sociopath in this case? Because sociopaths lean into that image shit. Communal narcs lean into that image shit that way because that's a part of their narcissistic supply, is being held in high honor. What if I told you that the fact of this insidious, coercive, covert, behind the scene abuse that creates the disruption for people to look tethered? What if I told you that those are the ones that are mentally ill? That is where the mental illness is. The look of mental illness should not be predicated on any of this fake ass, trash bag ass, discriminatory, prejudice, one-sided, double-sided, hypocritical, conditional, culturally based bullshit. If you abuse something over and over, it's going to be worn and tethered at some point, isn't it, if they have not been able to recover or do the things necessary in order to properly care for themselves. So once again, who is the real mental ill? The one that looks worn and tethered because of abuse, or the abuser? The look of mental illness. Oh, my eyes are wide open. The ones that are going around saying, "Are you okay?" But they would cross right over home dude in real life if they didn't think they was getting no PR for it or no benefits. If they didn't think they was getting some kind of credit and recognition for it. That would be the same person. Let's say in this scenario, they're doing that because of their agenda. But if it's someone else and there's no benefit connected to the agenda whatsoever, they wouldn't even, in fact, they would make it their point to look the other way and pretend like they don't hear and see the person. But they're charitable. But they're a humanitarian. They're a philanthropist. They give without conditions. They're the ones that will be waiting to get on the freeway in a line, waiting for the light to change. And if they saw the person standing there, you know, trying to get their room, trying to get a couple dollars, they'd be the one to roll their window up and turn their music up, okay? And, you know, pretend like they can't hear or see that person doing the WAP in their window and shit. But to the targeted population that they're trying to make them feel less than, they're trying to affect their confidence, they're trying to gaslight them into thinking that it's something wrong with them. To them, if they would see them, they'll be like, are you okay? Ma'am, are you okay? Sir, are you okay? And you sitting there looking just as calm, your capacities together, you don't even look worn or tethered. You just have on a, you look like everybody else around you. Are you okay? That's the real mental illness. The look of mental illness. So as I end this, I'm going to wrap it up and say the look of mental illness is gang stalking. It's cyber stalking. It's community organized harassment for hire and personal agendas. That is the look of mental illness. And it often comes with Chanel and Armani suits and Louis Vuitton and Mercedes-Benz and BMWs. It often comes with badges of honor and law and order. It often comes with badges and labels of case manager, social worker, doctor, lawyer, police officer, landlord, manager, neighbor, clergy. Targeting a population because they want control and want something that they have no business wanting, that they have no business attempting to take. That's the real look of mental illness.